this is Jonathan with JonathanStewartPhotos.com, and I hold in my hands the long-awaited Sigma 35mm f1.4 lens. This lens just came out for Sony mount last week after having been out already for a couple of months for Canon and Nikon. But what makes this lens particularly significant for Sony shooters is that it offers an affordable alternative to Sony's overpriced and widely panned dud of a lens, their 35 1.4. Now, the lens itself is a great focal length, as you probably know if you're watching this video. For street shooting, it closely matches the diagonal angle on a full frame camera. It's actually a slightly wider than that, so you do get a little bit of a wide angle or an exaggeration of distance with this lens. But beyond what we already know about this lens and what you can see from reading the online reviews, what I'm really curious about in my test is seeing if this lens has character. You know, we can talk about sharpness, we can talk about bokeh. What I want to know is if you use this lens properly, if you really get to know it, can you get more out of this lens than the sum of its parts? Can you make art with it? Well, it's called an art lens from Sigma, so let's find out. See the video description below for a link to an online gallery of all the shots that I'll be featuring in this video, plus many more. Let's try it out. When you pick up the lens for the first time, you're impressed with the quality. It's got a good heft to it, which of course is a function of the optics inside, how much glass there is. But beyond that, it just feels quite solid. The first bottom ring here is nice metal. The second ring, while plastic, does have a nice textured underside for a affirmative grip when putting the lens on and taking it off. You have their new art logo, which I guess for the camera cognoscenti might mean something, but for the person on the street, absolutely meaningless. The focus ring, good feel to it. If anything, it's a little bit tight, but I don't think you're going to be having any focus creep. When I say creep, I mean it's not going to be slipping when you move the camera around. It has your distance scale, so if you want to just put it at f8 and walk around with your manual focus, you got that covered. Let's compare it to my other Sigma lens, which is the 12-24. These lenses are both about $900. And this lens, where this one has plastic, the new one has metal. The textures on the rings, they've improved. It just feels better on this lens. Even the manual focus switch, the new lens, it's more just a solider switch. I think it's sort of the difference between closing the door on your Toyota and closing it on a Mercedes. This one just feels solid, so kudos to Sigma. They've certainly taken some strides in the right direction as far as getting their tolerances down and improving lens quality. So let's compare the fit and feel to a Zeiss lens. This is the Sony Zeiss 85 1.4. You can see, I mean, beyond the obvious filter size difference, you're not going to confuse these two lenses. The Sony Zeiss has, well, the Zeiss, all of the Sony Zeisses have that certain angularity to them, a distinctive architecture. But one minus for the Zeiss is that it has a screw drive still, so you get a lot of noisy focus sounds when you're shooting video. Focus is slower, and the focus mechanism is not internal, so you have this barrel coming in and out. Now, one downside for this, of course, is that you can also get dust in here. So that's a plus for the Sigma. Now, one thing that I am a little bit disappointed in, Sigma did not take the opportunity to make this lens weatherproof. That's a bummer. Just to clarify, the 35mm focal length is known as a standard focal length because it closely approximates the natural perspective of vision. Although using a full-frame camera, you do still get a little bit of that wide-angle perspective. Here's a crop of the previous image, and you notice the fine detail of the splashes. Also, of this barbed wire, I can actually make out spider webs on this 100% crop along with all the detail in the rust. This running picture shows some of the wide-angle distortion that the lens offers. It's very minor. And some black and white bodyscapes to show the contrast and to really answer the question of can we achieve an artistic image with this lens. The answer is yes, but get to know the focal length. Here's a shot of my dog shaking. Now, before I bought this lens, I considered getting the Sony RX1 or the Fuji X100, but I think an investment in a quality 35mm lens for the DSLR is much more sound investment. Speaking of investments, decided to go and check out some exotic cars just to test the lens on those. If you're a peasant, you might have this perspective. Now, the one flaw I found in the lens is this flare, although pretty extreme light conditions. Notice how the background is totally blown out. That's a 1.4 aperture and a crop, really great detail. Again, the grille of a Bentley. This is the view that you see as you're about to get blown out of the way. But if we crop again, notice the nice little stars on the reflection, the points of light. That's a really cool effect. Same thing here on the Maserati. Opens up lots of creative possibilities. And coming up, perhaps the most shocking image I took of the whole set, of the sticker on the rolls. $331,000? Do you know how many cameras you can buy for that? A few more random images just to conclude. The lens is a winner. I think at $900, you're really undercutting the competition. And the 35mm focal length, while I'm not 100% accustomed to it yet, I think I will be very soon. I love the image quality of this lens. Here's another crop. Look at that detail on this lens. So my recommendation, buy it. You can't go wrong. Great lens. Congratulations, Sigma.